Hello, Facebook. How are you doing? Um, okay, let me fix some things real quick. Check. Well, I hope you can hear me. I'm not sure if you can. All right. Well, hello, Facebook. I know it's late at night. Um, got a lot of things on my mind. I'm thinking about a lot of things. My song comes out, well, it's probably already out on the East Coast. If it went live at midnight, and it's probably already available in Europe if it went live at midnight there. At any rate, today was Martin Luther King Jr.'s day. Um, I've always felt like a connection to Martin Luther King because my birthday, I always got off my birthday for his day. And so I would pay attention to, the newscast and the newspaper and in school they would teach us, about Martin Luther King Jr. and all that he did for our country, and for people of color. And I was reading some things today, and one quote was, forgiveness is not an occasional act, it is a permanent attitude. And, with things that have been going on in the past couple months, I've been really, I've had a lot of emotions, and been going through a lot. And I still am it's a struggle, but I'm trying to come from that place of forgiveness and forgiving myself for what I said. And I hope that the families can forgive me for what I said. At any rate, that brings me to another MLK quote. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. And it's really hard right now not to lose hope, because here we are a year later, and there's people that are responsible for trying to bring down our country that are not being held accountable even. And if it was any one of us, we would be, already in jail. So, as some of them already are, but it just doesn't, just the wheels of justice are so slow. Anyway, that takes me to another quote, by Martin Luther King Jr. And that is, never succumb to the temptation of bitterness. And I think there's a lot of bitterness in what came out in my tweets on November 22nd about Waukesha, the incident in Waukesha. Um, Back when I was married, my ex-husband and I took a trip down to Memphis, and we went to a lot of places there. We stayed at the Peabody Hotel, but we decided to walk through Memphis to Stacks, and um, that was an experience. Just to see like there's still segregation without being segregation in the South. Um, anyway, so when we were there, we went to the Civil Rights Museum, and we walked through the exhibit, and we went into the hotel where Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and killed, and you can see it. And it was such an emotional experience. I could hardly hold back the tears. And it's sad that we're still fighting that battle today, that not everybody's equal in this country, or treated equal, I should say. I have a whole list of things I want to talk about. So, excuse me for just a moment. I gotta blow my nose. Okay, I'm back. All right. So I wanted to also talk about what happened a little bit, November 22nd, and what I've been going through since then. Let's see. Am I still live? Oh, yes, I still am live. Okay. Looking at what's going on. Okay. So one thing I've always disliked about the right, extreme right, is that, or far right, is that evangelical preachers will get up after a tragedy, and they will voice their opinion about what caused that tragedy. And I ended up doing exactly what I don't like about them. The saying used to be that never talk about politics and never talk about religion. And if you are with someone, agree with their mother on religion and agree with their father on politics. That was the old rule. I'm not sure things are much different now, But I've always kind of kept my spirituality, my religion to myself. Um, but one thing Jesus said was to take the sty out of your own eye before you take it out of others. And yeah, I didn't take the sty out of my own eye when I said those things on November 22nd. So I wanted to apologize again in person. I'm so sorry for my inappropriate words and behavior. And I hope that the people of Waukesha can find healing and hopefully, maybe someday, even forgiveness. I was going to go into an explanation of my beliefs. I'm a Gnostic Christian. I was going to explain my philosophy, spirituality, and where and how individual and collective karma fit into that, but I don't think it's appropriate now either. So maybe some other time. One thing that I've noticed about myself, and sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's not, and that is that I don't always recognize social cues. I don't always know what's appropriate and what's not, and I was going to try to explain that when I started explaining about my mother and between me and the playpen and stuff with and those tweets. And I was going to blame her for it, but you know, maybe she is to blame, but I just feel like I don't have a filter sometimes. Like I am just brutally honest, and like I'm being right now. And I was being brutally honest about the way I felt, and I shouldn't have been at that point in time, and probably ever, about anything like that on Twitter, because it's the kind of thing that you hold a conversation, have a conversation about. It's not something that's going to be explained in tweets. And in fact, for most people, it's not can even be explained in a conversation. It's an experience. It's what you've gone through through your life into that point. And speaking about what I've gone through all the way through my life into that point is I've done a lot of good. I've organized charity benefit concerts. I've organized the PTA talent variety show for the school for several years. I've just always gone out of my way to help people. I've given away my last dollar twice in my life. And I just feel like America saw me at the wrong time, and that's just how I'm going to be branded for the rest forever. That woman that said the stupid things about Waukesha. So anyway, I have no filter. sometimes. And you all got to see that. Um, so, next, I want to talk a little bit about my experience with white supremacists. Give me another break. This is a big, tearful apology session. 1 second. Okay. So, um, well, first I want to back up a little bit about my experience with racism growing up before I get into my experiences with white supremacists. So, when my parents bought their house, there was a police officer who wanted to also buy that house. But my dad put the bid in first and he got it. And when I was like 1 year old, and my parents told me this later, when I was 1 year old, I was swinging on the swing on the front porch, and the police officers, I had like a little baby swing, and the police officer's son came up and knocked me out of the swing and called me a dumb Polak. And I mean, he was 4 years old. Does a 4-year-old know that to call a 1-year-old a dumb Polak? I don't think so. I think he was probably put up to it by his dad, who was mad at my dad for outbidding him or getting a bid in on the house before he did. Well, I was terrorized for the next 7 years. And so, even though I am white, I experienced a different kind of racism. The officer's son got all the kids in the neighborhood, including my own cousins, who were not Polish, to call me a dumb Polak and bully me. And I remember one of the girls took my dolls and they hit my brother with a baseball bat, dropped him on his head, like all kinds of stuff. I get bullied too. And I just had a really low self-esteem. I remember when I was 5, getting ready to go to kindergarten, and I said to my dad that I was afraid to go to school because I thought all the other kids would call me dumb Polak too. And he said, "Oh, no. If they do, you tell the teacher, and they won't do it." So, a few years later, they noticed that when I would introduce people before, I would call myself, by my full name, Mary Lemanski, or Mary now Lemanski, because I would went by my middle name too back then, and then I would leave off my last name, and I started to leave off my last name, and so my parents took me to a Polish club to try to get me to have some Polish pride, because they tried to buy me a Snoopy sweater, sweatshirt, and I just loved Snoopy, but Snoopy had a Polish flag, and I wouldn't wear it. And they bought me a Polish coloring book that talked about the history of the country and everything, and to this day it's never been colored. And so this went on until I was 7. And one day I was a couple of doors down in front of one of the kids' house, not the main bully, but and there was a bunch of kids hanging out, including the main bully's brother. And I don't know what we were talking about, but I corrected somebody because I was a bookworm. I just read all the time, so I knew stuff. I guess I started reading when I was 3. And one of the girls tried to kick me. Said, no, you dumb Polak. Went to go kick me, and I grabbed her foot, and I went, phew, and she did a flip in the air and landed on her face on the asphalt of her cousin's driveway. And they're like, Mary, what did you do? So then I went after the bully's brother, and I'm like, shut up! And I just started beating and beating and beating and beating it. And they tried to separate me, and he ran off running up the driveway, and I went after him. I had had enough. And you know what? After that, they would never bothered me again. Never heard dumb Polak again. And usually, I'm a really low-key, laid-back, peaceful person. But I'm not afraid to fight if I have to. And I think we're going to lose our country. But if we don't stand up to and make people accountable, I guess. So anyway, that was my experience with racism. And of course, it's not, I don't experience it every day like some people do, because I'm the color of my skin. And I recognize that. And even as I grew up in a lower middle class neighborhood, so in Springfield, Eminem talks about the tracks in Detroit. Well, in Springfield, there's tracks too. And you often hear about the tracks that separate the lower class from the middle class in Springfield, and the predominantly black side of town from the white side of town. But there's another set of tracks too, and that separates the lower middle class from the upper middle class. And so there's 2 sets of tracks in Springfield, state capital. But growing up, I had friends in on the sides of all tracks. Um, but I did spend most of my time on the on my side of the tracks, which is the lower middle class. And um, anyway, um, so in high school, I might have to move because my battery is getting ready to die, or I need to go plug it in. Um, uh, in high school, I'm gonna keep talking while I move. In high school, I used to go to punk shows. Hold on a second. And um, whoop. And anyway, at some of these punk shows, if the where the members were half black and half white, two of the members were brothers, and these neo-Nazi skinheads would show up at their shows. Oops. How's my feed doing? Can you guys hear me and see me okay? Just gotta check my internet connection. It's not saying some weird things. Oh, it's good. Okay. Anyway. So I would go to these punk shows, and these neo-Nazi skinheads would show up. And sometimes they'd be successful in getting the shows shut down. And I remember one time, me and a friend were standing at the edge of the pit. We weren't near, people were in there dancing. Usually the boys, we leave the boys to do that. Once in a while he'd hop in, but usually not. Anyway, so this one time I got pushed from, well, actually, I did not get pushed. My friend got pushed first. And I went to go help her up. And then they pushed me in. And the only people in the pit at that time were neo-Nazi skinheads. So, and they were kind of nudging me with their boots. They weren't full on kicking me. But, they were trying to scare me or whatever. So I just put over my hand over my head like this and just started swinging because I felt threatened. And luckily somebody pulled me out of there. But I've actually been in fights with them before. The difference is that was when I was 14, and they were, teenagers too. Now they're in their 40s. But, okay, so another time in high school, I was dating this guy, and we broke up, but I was friends with his roommate because we worked at the ice cream shop together at the mall, and she invited me to come over one night and spend the night. Um, and I went over there, and there were a bunch of neo-Nazis over there. And my mom had dropped me off, and this was before cell phones. And nobody there really had a phone, so had to be there all night, basically, until my mom came and got me. And they told me, well, let me back up a little bit. When I was real little, um, I remember waiting to cross the street at a stoplight, and um, my my I was standing there with my dad, and this black family came, and they were standing by us, and I had never seen a black family before that I was cognizant of. And I reached up to my dad and he said, what's going on? Why is their skin like that? And he said, you see those freckles on your arm? And I said, yeah. And he said, they that's melanin, and they have that all over their body. And I said, oh, okay. And that was that. And I'm very grateful that I have my father, because, well, I don't want to get into it about my mother right now. Anyway, so I was staying the night with these neo-Nazi skinheads, and my friend, who I didn't know, hung out with neo-Nazi skinheads. And I learned some things. I learned I wasn't white because of the freckles on my skin. And they also told me I probably wasn't white because I'm Polish, and there's a lot of Jew blood in Poland. So that was my experience in high school with neo-Nazi skinheads. And then, another thing, another thing about high school, real quick, is that in my psychology class, I wrote a thesis paper on the propaganda techniques used by Hitler, and what kind of person would fall for those techniques. And it was the same kind of people that fall for these white supremacist neo-Nazi groups. And you would think these people were not intelligent. But they are. Most of them are average or above average intelligence. They have been disenfranchised for whatever reason. Maybe they live in the South and they're surrounded by people that hate blacks, and that's just all they know. Maybe it's because they were beat up. Maybe they lost out on a job or saw somebody of color get ahead of them. And so they, the people that run these groups, they look for people that are down and out and disenfranchised, and they make them feel welcome. Um, and they build a brotherhood, or in some cases sisterhood, with them. Um, so I mean, don't discount these people. Don't think they're uneducated. I mean, some of them are, um, but a lot of them are actually intelligent. Um, which brings me to when I was in my 20s. I lived out in Arizona, and I say, okay, somebody's saying these are theories. No, well, I don't know. It's been researched pretty well. Um, I, if I could find my paper, I could pull the sources for you. Uh, but I mean, that paper was written when I was 17 years old, so I'm not sure I can find it. I can look. But I've had this conversation with more than one person, and they have said that their research has shown that that is the truth, that they are smart, they're disenfranchised, and of course everybody has their own motivation for joining groups. So um, anyway, so I had a friend um, in my 20s, when I was in my 20s, who was a former neo-Nazi skinhead. He was a Arizona Hammerskin, and I learned a lot from him. I learned about how the groups organize, very militant ones, um, very structured, some of them. Uh, kind of like, you know, a militant group would be. Uh, there was one night when we were out. Oh, one thing in the back in the early 2000s and into the maybe even into today. One thing that the skinheads traded in was the rockabilly look. So a lot of them, uh, wear the slick back greaser look. That doesn't mean everybody with the greaser look is an a neo-Nazi, but they kind of that was they traded in that one look for another, because it harkens back. So the skinhead is more like the working class. That was like the British, working class, and here, the 1950s working class greaser look is kind of the same thing. Um, so anyway, one night we were out drinking, and he ran into some of his old buddies. Um, he was uh, this friend of mine that was the ex neo-Nazi skinhead. We were out, me and my ex-husband were out with him, and we ran into his old buddies. So these guys wanted us to go hang out at their place afterwards. So they lived in an apartment complex, and we went, and we were just sitting outside the front of their condo or whatever it was, drinking beer. And there was a party of um, Mexican and black. Uh, I believe they were underage. Everybody there was underage. Kids in the apartment building next to us, and the the skinheads, ex-skinheads, well, whatever you call them, they went over, ex-neo-Nazis who are still neo-Nazis. They went over and uh, and had a confrontation with these people in the apartment building next to us. And I hadn't been paying attention. I was talking to my now ex-husband and his our friend, and not paying attention to what was going on over with them. And all of a sudden they come back and they run into the apartment building and they start loading up on guns, and they all come out with guns. This is Arizona. And they hand my ex-husband a gun, and they hand our friend a gun, and I take off running. I'm like, see you later. So I take off running. Um, I was gone. I'm down the apartment parking lot, and I was not going to come back. Uh, but we were like miles from my house, our house, and I mean, it was like I was like 3 towns away. Um, so my ex-husband comes back and he talks to me, or he comes toward me and he's like talking to me, and by this time the police have showed up, and and I was like, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. There's no way I'm going back. I don't even know why we're hanging out with these people. Why are we here? And he's like, okay, okay, come on back. We'll leave soon. I'm like, I don't want to go back. So anyway, he finally talked me into going back. And luckily by this time, most of it had been diffused, and the cops actually gave all the beer to the, the neo-Nazis, um, because everybody was underage at the party. And so there was a bunch more beer for us. Um, but we ended up leaving not too long after that. So that was my third and final neo-Nazi skinhead story. Um, so yeah, I was gonna talk about a lot of other things. Um, but I'll leave that stuff for another day. Uh, I do want to say that I think that, um, and if you watch MSNBC, which maybe I don't know, maybe there's a little bit sensationalism there because, I don't know. But then if you watch MSNBC, it's like really scary. Um, we're so close to losing our democracy. And one thing about karma is, it's to me, it's about balance. It's not about revenge. It's not about celebrating somebody's demise. is about balance. And I think we're really close to tipping the scale on our democracy. And did I leave my other notes in the other room? Um, I guess I really want to talk about the song that I'm putting out. And actually, if you're on the East Coast, and just tuning in, you may be able to listen to it now. Here in a few minutes, I will actually, let me put it in the chat so that you can all, if you want, check it out. It will be live, hopefully, in a few minutes. I don't know how, if everything goes live at midnight or not. But sometime today, you will be able to hear my new single. Oh, that didn't. Oh, yeah, there we go. Karma. Klansmen are ruining my America. Oddly enough, I never say Klansmen are ruining my America in the song, but there's a part where the chorus, well, you'll hear it soon, but I always think of what those letters mean during the chorus for some reason. Anyway, about the song. So, as you can imagine, after my tweet went viral, okay, so maybe I should talk about how this happened. Or my theory anyway. So, exactly a week before my tweet went viral, I was speaking at a school board meeting. And actually, if I can dig up my speech, I'll give you the 3-minute version. I gave a shortened 2-minute version of it. But the people there were trying to get a book banned called Gender Queer from out of the library. And I have a lot of strong feelings about censorship because, well, for one, I think it's fascist. My mother belonged to the PMRC, and when it's the Parental Music Resource Center, if you remember anything about them, they are responsible for the parental advisory stickers on albums. But before they got the parental advisory stickers, they tried to get some artists pulled off the shelves. So, they got the parental advisory stickers put on, but essentially, they're a censorship group, and so my mom belonged to this, and there was one time when she told me that she was going to host a meeting and introduce everybody to this Parental Music Resource Center, and I stressed out about that for like 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, I'm like 12 years old. Oh my gosh, my world's ending. My mom is such an embarrassment. And she literally made me think that all these parents were gonna, have this discussion about music and stuff, and it ended up, I find out years later that it was just PTA meeting, and she was just bringing up a new business or whatever, or, you know. Yes, Tipper Gore. Um, and the funny thing, interesting thing about Tipper Gore is that, or the whole thing with parental advisory warning, is that uh, the uh, when Al Gore was running for president, when Al Gore was running for president, he one of the first things he brought up was how Hollywood was and the music industry where they just put those labels on to make people buy their albums. I was like, wow, you just forgot all of that. uh, but whatever. um, anyway, so I got up at this school board meeting and I gave a little speech, and this is what I said, or close approximation. Uh, Baron Friedrich von Steuben, a Prussian military man hired by George Washington to whip the Continental Army into shape during the darkest days of the Revolutionary War, is known for his bravery and the discipline and grit he brought to the American troops. Historians also think he was homosexual and served as an openly gay man in the military at a time when sex between men was punished as a crime. Von Steuben was a strict drill master, but he also socialized with the troops. One of his aides, Pierre Antonin du Ponceau, recalls a particularly wild party given at Valley Forge. His aides invited a number of young officers to dine at our quarters, he wrote, on condition that none should be admitted that had on a whole pair of breeches. The men dined in torn clothing, and he implied no clothing at all. Though his name is little known among Americans today, writes Eric Trickey for Smithsonian, every U.S. soldier is indebted to von Steuben. He created America's professional army. I wonder what he would have thought of Bill Clinton's Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We have all heard of the Underground Railroad. Downers Grove itself played a role in the Underground Railroad. We often hear how white people would help and harbor black people to safety. But we often never learn the genius way in which black people communicated where the meetup point was and when. They had to hide their communications, so they did it right out in the open. The slaves would sing and often sing in the fields as they worked. These work songs and field hollers were used to communicate many things, but one being where and when the Underground Railroad was supposed to meet. These field hollers were the precursors to the call and response of American spirituals and gospel music and to the blues. The blues form the basis of jazz, rock and roll, R&B, funk, and even hip hop. And who can even stand country unless it is laced with blues? To me, as a professional musician, singer, songwriter, and composer, American music is black music because it certainly would not be the same without their influence. Unfortunately, that beautiful music was born from pain and suffering and denial of freedom, real denial of freedom, not asking you to consider the public health and having you wear a piece of cloth on your mouth. The most patriotic person I ever knew was my father, who served for 4 years in the United States Air Force. He voluntarily signed up when the government was drafting men for the Korean War. He would never let us wear t-shirts with the American flag on it, because it is a violation of the flag code to wear the flag except as a pin or patch, even if it was a screen print. He said we could not wear it because it could be mistaken for the real flag. Kind of like how flag waving can be mistaken for real patriotism. I learned from my dad that it is not important to march around with the flag. What is important is doing what is needed when the health and safety of Americans is at stake. Doing what you can for your country. So, right now, the most patriotic thing you can do is wear a mask and get vaccinated. Thank you. So, that was my speech. Um, and so, after that speech, I had a meeting like several days later, toward the end of the week, to work week, with some of the other people in our group that spoke. And one of the women said that, oh, I forgot to mention the Proud Boys were at that school board meeting. Um, so anyway, and it was on CNN. It was listed on CNN and everything. So anyway, so I was at this meeting, and one of the women said that, um, hold on a second. Oh, yeah. One of the women at the meeting said that uh, they had called up her place of work. She worked at a church, and they tried to get her fired, saying that she supported porn. Because at the school board meeting, they were all there holding these no porn signs for this genderqueer book. And it's a graphic novel, and it has some pictures where there's bedroom scenes. And so they had taken these pictures and blown them up really big on poster board, and were complaining about showing kids porn. And there were high school students there, and so I'm kind of confused about the purpose of that. Did they want to show them porn, or did they not want to show them porn? Because they were showing them porn. Anyway, um, so these it was Proud Boys, and it was this group. Well, I don't know that the group was there. In some of the members were there. I don't know that the group was there in name. But anyway, so after the school board meeting, so this woman in our group, she was being harassed. And earlier in the week, this is going to sound really weird. Earlier, or after that, maybe it's that. No, yeah, it was earlier in the week. I had seen like this parade of cars go by my house. It's like three white cars, and they were older model. It was like a car, a van, and a truck. And I didn't think anything of it at first, because I thought, oh, well, it's probably a car show, whatever. But then, like, after all this happened, there was another parade of cars. And when the people were calling, there was one guy in particular. He's talking about the Karma Parade. Look outside for the Karma Parade. You'll hear it in the song. And then, interesting enough, I was on Twitter the other day, and somebody named the parade driver was responding to my texts, because I was on there under. Oh, I got a Twitter story. I was on there under Mary Nell, which I'm kicked off Twitter now again. Well, I took my account off before, but I'm kicked off Twitter. I've been kicked off Facebook for 2 days. I just got back on. They reported my one of my posts about cannabis. So I'm kicked off Twitter now because, okay, a few weeks ago I approached Twitter and I said, "This is Mary Lemanski. I'm using this Twitter account because I cannot get my own name back because when I shut down my account, I tried to restart my account. Um, when I closed my account down, I closed it down as Mary Lemanski 1 for Twitter. And when I came back on, so I could restart my account, but somebody restarted it before I could restart it. And so now there's anything pertaining to Mary Lemanski except Mary No on Twitter is a fake account. So they have uh, they took over my name on Twitter. So, oops. So I ended up starting Mary No, Merryknall, which is my name but spelled different. Um, and anyway, I get this. I was posting a lot yesterday for my album, but I get this email from Twitter this today, and it says, if I can find it, it basically says that I'm kicked off Twitter because, oh, I was kicked off Twitter because, well, and this is funny because like 6 weeks ago, or not 6 weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, I went to Twitter and I said, there's all these accounts in my name, right? So, and they're like, well, send us your ID. But I was so sick of sending people my ID because I've been sending people my ID so many times. So I didn't get to it, honestly. Um, and I probably should have because they kicked me off um, Twitter because they said I had multiple accounts serving the same purpose. I just have one account. All those other accounts are fake accounts. So I got kicked off Twitter because of all those other fake accounts that other people made about me that I told Twitter about, but they just, you know, I didn't get around to giving them proof that I was who I was. So I'm kicked off Twitter. My business is not, but my I personally am, and you know what? I don't think I'm just going to go back. Um, because I was going to this right now, like do a kind of what I'm doing right now on Twitter, except it would be like their, you know, speaking thing. Anyway, I'm getting off track. um, so let's go back. Let's just talk about, um, hold on a second. I have like too many things going on at once. I'm trying to figure out, I was trying to pull up the Twitter email for you so I could read it to you. But that's essentially what it said. That basically I had too many accounts. It said that it was sending out spam messages um, from and obviously not a human, that they was sending too many spam messages. So I'm not sure what those other accounts were doing, but it caused my account to get shut down. Um, so anyway, so I'm here on Facebook, and uh, I'm slightly distracted right now while I'm trying to do something. Okay. All right. So back to the story. So I spoke. So this parade driver, yeah, I saw his name on Twitter, um, and I asked him if he was the parade the 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 one that talked about the Karma Parade in my song, and I never got an answer. So anyway, I'm kicked off Twitter, uh, and probably pretty close to being kicked off Facebook. I have like 3 strikes against me, I think. The second strike I want to kind of, I don't understand because I said, I guess I made a comment about Americans being stupid, but I'm American, so it's like, I can't criticize my own race or what. So anyway, so after this, so about a week after this school board meeting, I was working late at night. People like to think that I was drinking late at night. I wasn't. I had just got done working, and I was like, oh, what's going on Twitter? And I hadn't paid attention to the news all day. In fact, I hadn't paid attention to the news in a couple days. And I just saw that a man drove a van into a parade in Wisconsin, and I don't even know what I was thinking. I just said it must have been self-defense, and it was probably just self-defense. And I noticed on the thread that I went through, and I was reading it later before I deleted my account, that, you know, at least 10 other people made a similar joke. But, you know, I'm the only one that was the social media director of the Democrats. So I feel like I was targeted for that. And I feel that it's kind of connected to me speaking at the school board meeting the week before. Because if they're watching her, and I mean, who else were they watching? And maybe the white cars going by was all coincidence, but, you know, maybe it wasn't. And all this parade stuff, maybe it's all coincidence, or maybe it's not. So you can see where I'm like, I feel like sometimes like I'm paranoid schizophrenic, and then I'm like, well, there's this and this and this and this and this and this and this. So, anyway, so what's the point? I'll be getting to it. This is long-winded. Okay, so after I said that, then people started, oh, what did you say that? Well, you know, they started making comments on it, and you know, I said other comments that were not good, and I'm really sorry. I wasn't thinking about how my words would affect other people. I wasn't thinking about anything really, except the written House verdict and you know, my own selfishness, I guess. It was really just a low point for me in many, many ways. And I'm sorry that I hurt people. So anyway, in the time after that, I got lots and lots and lots of phone calls. I've also had lots of things happen to me since then. I've had DCFS called on me. I got, since college, I wanted to go to Second City and be a graduate of Second City, whether it was improv or whatever. So I was in the acting program and I made it. I just screwed that all up because they called up there and were sending death threats there, and so I got kicked off the show. I had 6 weeks to go before I graduated. And what else they do? They tried to set up a bank account in my name. They what else? I have a whole list of stuff. Um, I'm actually going to be writing a book, so you can all read it in the book, I guess. Just some weird, like, interactions. I had an incident where I was driving in traffic after I'd pulled out of, well, there's a whole rest of the story before it, but I'm sitting in traffic, and there's a car that has pulled out, has followed me, and is sitting right next to me. And all these cars in front of him are going, and there's like 7, 8 car lengths, and he's just sitting there right next to me. And this is like rush hour traffic. And all this stuff's been reported to the police, but, people think that I'm being paranoid and that it's all in my head, but it's not. I mean, my kids were in the car, they saw this happen. And I've had my phone hacked. I had an incident where I was at a store, and I came out, and I was talking to the detective on the phone, and he's sitting there telling me, if you have any incidents like that again, you call 911. And this car comes roaring into the parking lot, whips around me, and pulls right in this slot next to me. I'm like, okay, this guy's in a hurry. And then he whips out his phone. I'm like, okay, maybe he's lost. And he's like, on his phone. And I'm just like looking at him, and I'm like, and he kind of like does this thing where he has these like really thick glasses, so I can't like see his eyes. So I don't know if these are like real glasses or if they're meant to be a disguise. They didn't, I mean, I don't know. He was like this, like he was not wanting me to like look at him, which I guess I was kind of being weird, but he does this thing where he's like this, and he's like peering at me behind the door frame, and then he goes back to this, and so it kind of made me a little bit nervous, but so just for safety, when I was pulling out, I looked at his email, or I looked at his license plate, and I pull around to the back of this building, and I get on my phone, and I put in quick memo plus uh, his license plate, and then I go into Google Keep, and I put in his license plate, and when I got home, I wrote it down. Well, the next day on my phone, I get a message from Google that says that someone tried to access Keep through Quick Memo Plus. And so I go into Quick Memo Plus, and his license plate was deleted. And I went into Keep, but it wasn't. So I gave that information to the police. I don't know that they believe me or anything, but yeah, that happened. So it's like kind of been really weird, and I've had other things that I don't really want to talk about right now, but yeah. Anyway, so I get all these calls. The calls lasted so somehow the tweet went viral at 2 a.m. when most of Wisconsin's asleep. But okay, I'll give it whatever. I think it had help. But so it goes viral, and then by 4 o'clock, it's on Fox News. Why does Fox News care about some little social media manager? Uh, I don't know. It seems like a weird thing for Fox News to fixate on, but anyway, so by 4 o'clock it gone viral, and because of Fox News, and and uh, well, first whatever, it had gotten enough attention that Fox News thought it was important to report on, and so at four in the morning, so it went the news report went out, and then I probably started getting calls maybe an hour later, because it was probably like 6 o'clock on the East Coast, and those calls continued um, until about, I think it was like 11 the next day. This parade goes by the house, and then like 10 minutes later, the calls stop. And most of the calls were from people on the right. You could tell because you'll hear in the messages that it's all right wing people. There was like maybe one or two people on the left that expressed their disappointment in me, but it was mostly all on the right. Um, uh, Here is, I'll put the link up again. Oh, I see, it's still up, in case you are just joining. Um, so anyway, I took all these voicemails. I was listening. I didn't really listen to them right away. I waited like a week or so. Um, I just kind of put my phone on silence after a while. But like that day, for some reason, everybody was ringing my doorbell to deliver packages and stuff like that, and it was really freaking me out. Um, they did call a pizza to me at night. In the evening, the police talked to the pizza guy. Um, I was talking to another friend who is a uh, or was a uh, belonged to like conspiracy websites and hacker sites, and they said, did they send you a pizza yet? So that must be a like a regular thing, and but they said that they saw me targeted on 4chan and uh, on some of the other sites. So I know that I was targeted on 4chan. I've had more than one person actually tell me that, mention 4chan. So yeah, um, I have other stories, but I'll just add it for the book. And anyway, so with this, I took all these voicemails, and I was listening to them, and um, responding to some of the text, not, like, um, and I was able to find out, like, sometimes, a few of the texts people messed up, and they were meaning to text a group of people, and they text me back instead, and I got their text messages to the group on more than one person. So the police have those too. Um, and so anyway, um, I have all these messages, and I'm going to turn them into art eventually. I hope to have a video to go with this karma song, but the karma is made up of entirely, well, not entirely, almost entirely from voicemails. The beat is made up of sounds background sounds and just like clicks and stuff that happened on the phone when they called. So, and like sounds like that. So uh, I cut up the voicemails into little pieces. So one thing I way I structured it is I had all these different I brought all the voicemails in, and then I cut each all of the voicemails up into usable sections. And then I broke it down into a way I organized it. I had um, sound effects. So I had like two tracks of sound effects. And then I had a track of what I called the scary, sinister voices, um, which were mostly like the threats. There was one voice who was the killer. You'll hear him on there. There was the bitch. She called 3 times, so she appears 3 times in the song. The killer called twice, so he's twice in the song. The ringmaster, he's the one at the beginning. Um, do I feel safe? Well, I have body armor. I have cameras all over my house, outside. Um, I don't really feel safe, no. But I feel like people should hear this. I think they need to hear the hatred. They need to hear America the Ugly. This is America the Ugly. We've all heard America the Beautiful. Maybe that's what I should have called this song. America the Ugly. Because this is the ugly side. And my ugly side came out. I'm not excusing my behavior, but I'm also shedding light on their behavior because it gets pushed into the background a lot because a lot of people are afraid, as they should be. But I kind of know what I'm dealing with. As I told you before, this is not my first interaction. It's my first interaction with the whole nation, probably international network of them. Um, so, uh, so yeah, so I cut up all these voices. So I had the sound effects. I had the angry voice, sinister voices. I had the killer. I had the bitch. I had the ringmaster. Actually, the ringmaster quickly became part of the chorus, who is um, what I did was I had found like I took all the things that had to do with karma, 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 and I took all of the karma bits, and I basically that's what I made the chorus. So the chorus um, is all the karma bits, and then there was the people that called up. Well, there's all the male voices that were angry, and then there was the female. There was like one other female beside the bitch that called up, and then there was let's see what else. Oh, I had the just laughing ones that were just it was just laughing, and um, there was the ones that I didn't really I used sections of it. It was the people that tried to come off as nice, but they were really creepy. Like they came off like they were trying to help you out, but you knew that there was something not quite right, sinister about them. Um, so yeah, so I took all these parts and I have created this. I cut it up. I made a beat, and then I made a chorus, and then I made the verses, and there's a little breakdown in the middle, and then the closing out tag. um, and you can hear it all. Um, let's check and see if it's live. Um, I'm not going to play it on here because um, I will probably get kicked off of here, and I need to stay on here for business. I probably won't be making many more comments on here, just so I don't lose my access to all of my pages that I need my access to. See, I really, I started this business in July, and the first couple months I just struggled because I was having problems getting my website built because there was something wrong with the server, and I thought it was just me after a while because I argued back and forth with the 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 host, and I had somebody else come in and they said it was the server too. So I ended up moving servers, and I had just gotten my website like back up, and everything was smooth running. It'd been up for like maybe like a month, and then all of this happened. So like I feel like it's been a real struggle trying to get my business up off the ground. But anyway, so I have to keep these pages open. But let's see, let us see if I can. We're going to go to Mary Lemanski here now. Yes, it is up. You can listen to it now. I thought it was going to say where it was available, but it may, right now it might just be available. Okay. It looks, oh, let's see. It sounds like right now it has it. It looks like you can, I'm not sure if you can hear the whole thing or if you can just hear a sample. But if you go to this link, which I'll put in the chat, you can listen to at least part of it. And it should be up everywhere soon. And you know, I'll probably post links later today as I see it's up. So just look out for that, and give it a listen. I'm not gonna say enjoy it because it's not really something you enjoy. I wouldn't play it for your kids. It comes with a trigger warning and an explicit lyrics warning. The trigger warning, yeah, very adult subject matter. I've been told it's scary. So listen with caution. And I guess that's really it. That's all I really wanted to say. I know that took an hour and a half to say, but it's a long, drawn out live feed. I never get on here and talk like this, and I probably should do it more often. I wouldn't talk for an hour and a half. But I'm trying to get my sense of humor back. It's really hard right now. I'm going through a lot. I'm going to, as soon as this is out, write a book. Well, I've started it already, but finish it. And I may put a video out. I've been thinking I'd put a video out and include some of those text messages without the phone numbers, just so people could see what people were sending me. I think people need to see it. I think they need to see the ugly part of our country, because you know what, these are some of these people are relatives. There are family members, there are friends, and they think this way. And if white people don't stand up to racism, it'll never go away. We are, I mean, we're the root. This is where it starts, and to not acknowledge that, to not acknowledge that, to like my speech said, to paint like a history that is just not true. I mean, there's other people in this country that contributed to the way that this country was built and what it has become, and we can't ignore their who contributions or who they were, because that is what made them, you know, what what made them who they were is, or what, you know, who they are is what led to their accomplishments, and or whatever. So I just, I wish everybody would get along. This is not the vision I had of my life for myself, for one, or for this country. When I was growing up, on MTV, they talked about all kinds of different people's lifestyles, and they had, all types of different races, and I thought, one day life would be like that. Um, and it's like at that time period, like Tupac said that we weren't ready for a black president, and I mean, look what happened. And, you know, his song Changes, he talks about how things don't change, and they still haven't changed in many ways. I'm hoping that we're moving past that. And I think the I think if people are held accountable, and I think that if we make an effort toward love, and try to move away from hate, and trying and just making assumptions about people, not listening to each other, not acknowledging truth and fact, like real truth and fact. And, I mean, it's on the left, we like to point our finger at how wrong the right is, but, not, it's, extremes of any kind are not good. And I think we need to just find a compromise. I talked about balance, and karma being balance, and I think as a society we just need to find compromise. We need to find the balance. You can't acknowledge, I mean, you can't deny people medical procedures just because you don't believe in them. You aren't their master. You aren't their parent in most cases. And to, in the same breath, say, I don't need to wear a mask because it's my body. Well, I mean, come on. Nobody's hunting you down, putting a mask on you, and I mean, I guess in some cases they're making it mandatory so you get your job, but I mean, go get another job. That's what we've been told all along. If you don't like your job, go get it. Go get a better paying job. Um, I I just think that maybe we just all need to take a step back. And I, 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 I remember growing up and not having some things. And, sometimes I would see like a black child or, um, well, Hispanic, um, having a perceived advantage because of their color. Um, but, you know, one way to realize white privilege, one way to realize it is to ask yourself as a white person, would you want to be a black person in this country? And it's most likely no, not because black people are less than white people. It's because of the way that society treats them. People don't want to be treated the way that society treats them. People don't want to get pulled over for the color of their skin. So why would you tolerate that when it happens to another person? If these Bible bangers always say, Jesus this, Jesus that. But Jesus had a story about the Good Samaritan. And people don't know this about the Good Samaritan, but the Samaritans were a race of half Jewish people. And a lot of people didn't accept these half Jewish people. A lot of Jews did not accept them. And so a lot of people know the story of the Good Samaritan, about the man on the side, been beaten by robbers on the side of the road, and everybody walks by, the rabbi, etc. And they all pass him by, but the Good Samaritan, the half-Jew, helped him. So what does that say about Jesus and racism? When you look at it in that perspective, when you look at the historical perspective. Another thing Jesus did, and he did it more than once, was he talked to women in public. Something that is still not done to this day in some places in the Middle East. You cannot speak to a single woman in public. A woman can't not be in public in some places in the Middle East without a man accompanying her. And so what I was taught in school was there was this woman at the well, right? And what I was taught was that Jesus, she said to him, basically, why do you speak to me? And I was taught, he shouldn't speak to her because she knew that he was God and he shouldn't speak to her. She didn't think she was worthy of him speaking to her. But if you know about the laws in the Middle East, you know that men aren't supposed to speak to women in public. So she's actually said it because he was speaking to her. So what does that say about what Jesus thinks about women? That he thought of them as equals, equal enough to speak to them in public. And people like to bring up the pro-choice thing, uh, the evangelicals and the Catholics. And the thing is that not Jesus, God gave us free will. Free will. And he also said, take the sty out of your own eye before you take it out of someone else's. So, I just hope that we can all get back some resemblance of peace in this country and work together. And I'm hoping that exposing this element and what they've done to me, I'm not the only one. They've done it to other people. I've been finding in my research. We need to we need to make sure that this doesn't become the norm. I guess that's really all I really wanted to say. And I'm scared, but I hope you all listen to my song. I hope you learn something from it. And half of the profits, at least half of the profits, will go to anti-hate groups, not profits, like the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Anti-Defamation League and other various organizations that support anti-hate legislation and educating people to make this, to bring us together. Because I think a lot of it is just not being exposed to other people, other races, other cultures. I have a lot of friends that are afraid of trying new foods, and I think there's people that are afraid of meeting new people outside of what they are always used to seeing. And I don't know why that is. I mean, we have this life, we have this whole world. It would be nice if we could just, be able to safely go wherever we wanted. But that's not the case, and I think there's people that are actively working against that. I think there's people that are afraid for whatever reason, or maybe they just like to control people. I don't know. We need to find a way out of it. So I'm doing my little part. I don't expect this to be a top 40 hit. I don't even expect, it to even do that well, because they had put out a press release, and I found out that the Fox News affiliates, none of them ran the press release. Like, I was given a link of all of the places where my press release, well, not all of them, a sampling of where my press release had been posted, and there were some Fox News links on there, and they'd gotten pulled, and there was another news network, I can't remember which one it was, and all of my links all of my press releases had been pulled from those websites too. So I've got elements on in the media working against my promotion of my album, but um, I did get a PR firm in France that contacted me that wants to help me out, and so I had a goth radio station that wants to internet radio station that went asked for a an MP3. So yeah, if you are listening and you would like to, if you're a podcaster, a internet radio station, satellite radio station, and you'd like an MP3, I can send it to you. You can't play it over FCC airwaves. So I guess that's it. Uh, if you have any questions, I'd be welcome to answer any. Let's see, what does it say? How about Green Bay punk scene? How about it? We love the Green Bay punk scene. I hope that wasn't too rambling. I wasn't. This is me unscripted. I have a tendency to ramble and then sometimes lose my place where I was going. But I think I was able to tie up all the ends. I guess that's it for now. This is me talking for an hour and 45 minutes. And I usually don't talk at all. Most of my friends know I'm the quiet one. I'm also I'm the observer and the listener. And the one that, like, everybody's, like, going around and arguing. And I'm just listening to it all. And then they go, Mary, what do you think? And I summarize everybody's points and and put my little twist on it. And that's, you know. So, yeah, I'm usually really quiet. But this is me being a chatterbox and rambling. Anyway, it is almost 1 in the morning. Yeah, enjoy my song as much as you can. I guess that's it for now. Good night. Have a good night.